He looks up at me every morning with those big, trusting eyes. "Mom, you're the strongest," he says, smiling like I don't have cracks all over me, but I do. Cracks that run deep, cracks I've hidden for years, cracks that sometimes make it hard to breathe. Some nights, when the lights are off and he's asleep, I feel the weight of all the things I didn't do, all the nights I let him down, all the mistakes I thought I could hide. No matter how hard I fight for him, there are moments when I feel like I'm fighting against myself, against my own fear and guilt. The kettle whistles in the kitchen, steam curling like the ghosts of the words I never say. I try to hide behind laughter, behind pancakes and school runs, bedtime stories and whispered I love yous. I tell him I'm fine, that I'm okay, that we'll be okay. And he believes me because he's small and trusting, because he doesn't yet see the battles I fight inside. Sometimes I sit at the edge of his bed after he falls asleep, watching his chest rise and fall, listening to the quiet rhythm of his breathing. I wonder if he'll ever know how many nights I stayed awake, counting the mistakes I've made, asking myself if I'm enough. I wonder if he'll understand that even heroes aren't invincible. The walls of our small apartment hold memories of laughter and chaos, of scraped knees and late-night homework sessions. I run my fingers over the marks on the wall where I once measured his height, the marks that now feel like echoes of a life I'm barely keeping together. I've learned to smile, to hold him close, to tell him stories about courage and strength. He calls me his hero, and maybe in some small, fragile way I am. But the truth is darker than he'll ever know. Some nights, I cry silently in the bathroom while he sleeps, listening for even the smallest sign that he's awake, so he doesn't see me like this. I tell myself it's okay, that tomorrow I'll be stronger, that he'll never have to see this side of me. And yet every night, the question haunts me. If he ever finds out the full truth, will he still believe in me at all? Her mornings always start before mine. He runs into my room with that bright little grin, jumps on the bed, and wraps his arms around me like I'm the only safe place in the world. "Mom, come on," he says. "We're going to be late," even though I know he loves seeing me stumble around the kitchen pretending to be busy. I make pancakes every morning, even though I never liked them. She used to make them for him, and the smell of burnt batter still reminds me of that first morning I tried, the first time he smiled and said, "Mom would be proud." I wanted to cry then, and I want to cry now. Sometimes I wonder if he remembers her laugh, or if it's just my stories keeping her alive in his mind. When he draws pictures of family, he still draws 3 of us, me, him, and the space where she should be. After breakfast, we walk to school. He holds my hand tightly whenever we cross the street. "Be careful, Mom," he says, his little fingers pressing into mine. I squeeze back, smiling, hiding the part of me that knows I've never felt careful enough in my life. Afternoons are quieter, but never empty. He comes home with stories, small victories from the day. He drew a superhero in class, scored a goal, told his friends his mom can do anything. I nod. I smile. I play along. I want him to believe it, even if I'm not sure I do. Sometimes I catch him staring at me, and I wonder if he senses the cracks I hide behind smiles and school lunches. I brush it off, talk about homework, about his friends, about what we'll have for dinner. But when he laughs, I let myself think, just for a moment, that maybe this is enough. The evenings are long and soft. We talk about small things, silly things. Sometimes I whisper stories about her, about the world she wanted him to see. I tell him things he doesn't need to know yet, little truths that feel safe. Sometimes I sit at the window watching him play with his toys on the carpet, And I wonder if he will ever feel the weight of the things I've carried alone. Sometimes I whisper to myself, hoping my voice carries strength even when my heart feels weak. And at night, when he's finally asleep, I sit beside him, watching, listening, letting the quiet fill me with both love and guilt. I light a candle just for me, just to mark the passing of the day. I think about the mistakes I made, the nights I almost gave up, the times I thought I couldn't do this alone. And still, every day I fight, not just for him, but against myself, against every fear that whispers I'm not enough. Sometimes I think about the life I had before it all fell apart. Back when we laughed so easily, when mornings were just coffee and quiet smiles, not battles and guilt. I remember her laugh, the way it filled the rooms like sunlight. I remember the plans we made, the dreams we whispered to each other at night. But life doesn't wait for anyone. Suddenly, I was alone, carrying not just myself, but the tiny life I had promised to protect. The weight of responsibility pressed into my shoulders, heavier than anything I had imagined. I learned quickly that love isn't enough when the world is unkind. There were nights I cried in silence, so he wouldn't hear me, so he wouldn't see the fear in my eyes. Nights I wondered if I was doing enough, if I was strong enough, if he would ever forgive me for the mistakes I couldn't undo. And sometimes I failed, sometimes I let my exhaustion win, and I hated myself for it. I worked long hours, ran errands, fixed dinners, helped with homework, all while pretending that everything was okay. Every "I'm fine," I said to him was a lie. A tiny shield I hoped would keep the world from breaking him. Because even though he's small, he already carries enough in his heart. I couldn't bear to add more. Sometimes I still said an extra. Played at the table by mistake, old. Habits die slower than memories. And when I catch myself talking to the empty chair across from me, I just smile. Because in some way she's still part of our mornings. And yet, through all the fear, the tears, the nights I felt I couldn't breathe, I found a kind of strength I never knew I had. It's not the kind of strength that shows up in movies or stories. It's quiet, stubborn, relentless. It's getting up in the morning, even when every part of you wants to stay in bed. It's making him pancakes and holding his hand to school, even when your own hands tremble. There are days when I look in the mirror and barely recognize the person staring back. But then I hear his laughter from the next room, and suddenly I do. I see her eyes in mine, and I remember why I keep going. I wonder if he'll ever understand the nights I almost gave up, the battles I fought alone, the mistakes I carried like stones in my chest. Maybe he won't. And maybe that's okay, because he feels safe, and he feels loved. And for him, that's what matters most. One afternoon, he came home from school, backpack bouncing, eyes bright with excitement. "Mom, we're learning about family trees today," he said. "Can you help me fill mine?" I froze for a moment, a small panic rising in my chest. "Of course," I said, forcing a smile. "After dinner, okay?" That night, the table was covered with papers and colored pencils. He had already written his name in the middle, and mine next to it. Then he paused, staring at the empty space where her name should be. "What was Mom's full name again?" he asked. "Emily Grace," I said quietly, the words tasting like dust and memory. He wrote it down carefully, then looked up. "Do you have any pictures of her? My friends are bringing theirs tomorrow." My heart stopped. I nodded, telling him I would find one, though I knew how difficult it would be. After he fell asleep, I climbed to the attic, the air thick with dust and the faint smell of rain. It felt like time hadn't moved since the day she left. Inside the old box were remnants of another life. Her scarf, his baby shoes, a photograph of the three of us. She was laughing. Sunlight caught in her hair. And tucked beneath that photo was the thing I had prayed he'd never see. Thunder cracked outside, and I was back there again. The night repeating itself in flashes. The car, the rain, the scream, and then silence. I sat there for hours holding the photograph, tracing the edges of her smile. The storm outside had quieted, but inside me, it never really stopped. Sometimes I wonder if she knew, if in that last moment, she saw me in the headlights and forgave me. I'll never know. All I know is that the rain still sounds like her voice, and every thunderclap feels like her leaving all over again. I remember the police report, the words that blurred in the rain: fatal collision, driver under influence, witness me. I poured another glass to calm the fight, another to quiet the shame. I had followed her that night, thinking I could fix everything, thinking I could save us. Instead, I watched everything vanish in a flash of lights. Morning came too soon. He found me at the kitchen table, the photo trembling in my hands. "Dad, did you find one?" he asked. I nodded, handing it to him. "She loved you more than anything," I said. He smiled at the picture like it was the first time he'd ever seen her. And I felt the world split in two. The one he lives in, and the one I can't leave. He came home quieter than usual that evening. His backpack sat neatly by the door, shoes lined up like he knew something I didn't. At dinner, he barely touched his food. "Mom," he said finally, "my teacher said we could bring more pictures next week, if we find any." His voice was steady, but his eyes weren't. We finished eating in silence. That night, his light was still on when I checked on him. "What are you doing up so late?" I asked. He hesitated, then pulled something from under his blanket. A photo. It wasn't the one I had given him. It was another, one he had found in the attic, tucked away, forgotten. The photo trembled in his small hands. I could hear the rain again, though it wasn't falling. It was the same rain, the same night, the same car. "Dad," his voice cracked, "were you there when Mom—" He couldn't finish. I wanted to lie. God, I wanted to lie so badly. But his eyes held me, and I couldn't. I swallowed the words for a moment, tried to steady my shaking voice. I thought if I was good enough, maybe it would erase what happened. "You said you were her hero," he whispered. "I tried to be," I admitted softly. But that night, I wasn't anyone's hero. Silence filled the room, pressing down until it felt impossible to breathe. Then slowly, he reached out. His small hand found mine. "You're still mine," he said. And in those words, years of guilt and fear cracked open. Tears I didn't know I had left poured out. He didn't move or speak. He just held my hand, steady, grounding me as the world seemed to collapse around us. Outside, the rain had stopped. I sat there long after he fell asleep, listening to the quiet hum of the house. The storm outside had passed, but inside it felt like one had just ended. For years, I thought forgiveness would come like lightning, sudden, blinding, loud, but it didn't. It came softly, through small hands and tired eyes, through the simple act of being seen and still loved. Maybe that's what healing really is, not forgetting, but finally learning how to breathe again. Years passed. He grew taller than me, his voice deeper now, but his laughter never changed. Some things shift with time, but the heart remembers what matters most. We talk about her sometimes, not with sadness, but with something softer. He'll say, "Mom would have liked this, when we burn dinner together or drive with the windows down." I smile, because he's right. She would have. I see her smile when he laughs at something small, and I remember that same laughter in the halls of our first home. I used to think forgiveness was something you earned. After guilt, silence, and sleepless nights, but it isn't. It comes quietly, through small acts of love, through the eyes of those who still believe in you. Every time he calls me Mom, every time he smiles at me, I forgive myself a little more. Now he has a son of his own. And when that little boy runs into my arms, yelling Grandpa, I see it all again. The same light, the same hope. Maybe that's how life heals itself, through small hands that never stop reaching for you. Every morning, I watch him teach his son little lessons, gentle routines we built together, and I see how far we've come. Not perfect, not without scars, but stronger. Together. Because heroes aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who get back up, even when the children they love are the ones teaching them how. And that's the truth my son still doesn't know. Not because I kept it from him, but because he already lives it. Every day, every morning, every small act of love. He carries her memory, her strength, and the lessons we all survived together. I watch him with his son, and I see her in both of them, and I finally understand what I've been fighting for all along. Not perfection, not invincibility, but this, the quiet, stubborn, relentless heartbeat of family, the simple, miraculous act of surviving and loving, even after everything.